Hey friends, I am getting ready to set up U.S. History Detective by Critical Thinking Company for my second kiddo. My daughter used it back in 2019, and this year he will be doing U.S. history spread out over this year and next year because we're combining it with world history. So I'm in the process of setting it up, and I thought I would give you a look inside. There are 2 books for it. This one is Colonial Era through Reconstruction, and the other one is Reconstruction through Modern. It is for grades 8 through 12, and while it does say that it can be a complete curriculum, I would not use it as a complete curriculum unless maybe I was doing for grade 8. For high school, I do not think it's complete enough for that. But I really, really like it, and I'm excited to show it to you today. One of the things I really like about this curriculum is that it is trying to help your kiddo go beyond just answering questions and think about why that answer is correct, what evidence they use from the text or from the reading to come to that conclusion. And it's also doing the same thing with the choices that it gives you. You'll find in the readings that there is an emphasis on not just what happened, but why it happened. And I think that's such an important detail for history, and it's often overlooked or not taught well. Inside each lesson, there's some reading, and I'll show you this in a minute. And then inside of that, or at the end of it, there are questions. So some of them will be a multiple choice question, and then your kiddo is going to have to go back into the reading and find what sentences actually support that answer. In addition to it being important for them to back up their answers with reasons, right? As we think about critical thinking, that's an important thing. But it also means that it's a lot harder for them to guess because they've got to do this part as well. There are also essays, short ones, we're not talking 3-page long essays or such. There are fact and opinion questions. There are sections about chronology where they'll have to put events in order. There's also timelines to help support that. Since it does start with a colonial era, you'll probably want to add some stuff for pre-colonial history. Then we have the Revolutionary era, Federal era, Nationalism, Reform era, Expansion era, Sectional conflict era, Civil War era, and Reconstruction. There is some overlap chronologically on these. For example, the Reform era, like the first lesson is the American middle-class family in the mid-1800s. But then over in the Expansion era, the first lesson is newcomers, immigration from 1800 to 1850s. So chronologically, it's all there, but there's also some overlap. Each section begins with an introduction to it. It's a half page usually, as well as a map and a timeline. Each lesson is roughly 2 pages of reading. I should say 2 pages with graphics. So in front of each sentence, they do have a number, which is what they will use to support their answers. Several sections. The graphics are clear, not cluttered, easy to read. Within each lesson, they'll have multiple types of questions. So a multiple choice, support it. Number 2, explain why the name Indians is really a mistaken label given the natives by Christopher Columbus. Again, multiple choice, true, false. Name 2 Native American regions in North America where natives used longhouses. At the end of each lesson, there is some kind of a written response. Usually it's a long paragraph, mini essay, whatever you want to call it. Although Native Americans in North America had many things in common, there were also many differences between the tribes. Use complete sentences that provide evidence from the lesson to explain this statement to be true. Now, most of the sections are somewhere around 5 or 6 lessons long. And in each section, is some kind of a review during it that is not a review of the whole section, just a partial one. And in this case, it was a map that he needs to go through and label. It clearly lists everything he needs to put in. There are also times when I just mark it off. And, well, this one I marked off prematurely. So I circled it and said do it. But there are other ones where I've just marked it off. No rhyme or reason, just periodically, let's skip that activity. I really, really love their maps. For example, in this one, they're comparing the pre-war boundaries and the post-war of the same section. When we're reading, it's easy to read something and not really comprehend what it actually looks like as far as a change goes. This curriculum does assume that this is not your kiddo's first introduction to U.S. history. I assume that by high school that is true for kiddos, but I say that this is not a complete curriculum in 2 ways. One, time-wise, it's not. Second, it's not complete in that if your kiddo has not had doesn't have a basic understanding of U.S. history, there are some things that are going to be skipped over in this because they think you've got a basic understanding. So that is not to say it leaves out anything major. I didn't find that. Just that since they do assume that, they're able to jump in and make things go a little deeper and such because your kiddos already have a basic understanding of the what in history. This was one of my favorite bonus activities that I did with Elizabeth because we have these phrases we hear in our day-to-day lives and in history, and it's easy to forget where they come from or misremember. And so I really like that they have this one. Another type of review that they have is who's who. So they give you a clue, they give you the people, and you have to match them up. This one does not, you'll notice, list the numbers of what lessons they were found in. So your kiddo's going to have to go back and do some digging on that. There's also the occasional bonus activity of something like this one's about the drinking gourd, but they give you a place to go find if you want to listen to it, all about the song and what it means. And then on this side, there are the questions to go with this. You'll notice, list this one as an extra credit activity. I think it's an important song and understanding, but it's also one that I just decided to give them extra if you wanted to do that. I did that occasionally with some of the end of the lesson reviews as well, or the written response questions. The one thing I wish was different about this is that the pages were perforated so that I could easily tear out the answer key. It's not, so I'll just use a box cutter to cut those off, and then I can put them inside my where I keep all my answer keys. For the written responses at the end, they give you some key points to be looking for. Obviously, the way your kiddo writes it doesn't need to be what this says. If they don't include all the points, use your discretion, but they do give you some key ideas to look for that will help your kiddo develop a complete response. So that's U.S. History Detective by Critical Thinking Company, Book 1. There are 2 books again. If you have any questions about it, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.